Week 1 of the Winter 18 season in Rhode Island is in the books. We have our new analysts here and one returning face, and you guys all know me. I'm the commissioner, Joey Zacco. Here's the Week 1 post-game show. No sponsor. If you want to sponsor us, definitely contact the league, contact me. We'd love to do a read. We had CrossNet last season, right, Greg? You might recognize him. Greg is here. And Tyler and Jared, they're on the end. Guys, let's start it off now. Week 1, we had a lot of new teams, 3 returning teams, so a lot of new faces even on the returning teams. We'll start with the Swish Kabobs, one of my favorite names. Don't let it trip you up. And the Average Joes, who we saw on that training night. All right, so 2 new teams, a couple familiar faces on both of those teams. Swish Kabobs come away with the win in Week 1 as a new team, pretty convincingly, I think. I think it was double digits over the Average Joes. But what in that game right here on Court 1 did you guys see, and what impressed you about the Swish Kabobs?
Yeah, I saw the Swish Kabobs turn the Joes into a little bit under average, and they were making their shots. They were able to drive. 24, Kyle Vieira was throwing alley-oops all over the place, scoring, rebounding. He was everywhere on the court and the stat sheet. Just really great team chemistry from them. They seem like they got a couple players that can blow up each game, and I feel like it's gonna be a great season for them.
And I'd say someone that's impressed me is Tyler Barbosa.
We all know him, huh?
Yeah. After interning with him last season, I know he was talking about this season and excited to play. And he actually played really well, so next up we'll have to see Mike Bandieri.
That's right. Mike wasn't here. Speaking of the Wild Hogs, very good transition. Wild Hogs lost to Boom Shakalaka, so there's one of those returning teams we mentioned. Runner-up from a year ago. They won't let you forget it on Twitter that they were runner-up. And they're back to try to improve on that finish from last season. They beat the Wild Hogs without Mike Bandieri, you mentioned, so a couple former interns now playing, getting to be analyzed instead of doing the analyzing, right? So what did, Boom Shakalaka, I think that was a double-digit game as well. They're in orange now instead of black, but many of the same faces. We had Larry Bird, Matt Kamara, Mark Belleville, and Ryan Ronsley talking his usual crap about the commish. But what did Boom Shakalaka do? And maybe you can start with this, and then we'll let you guys touch on the game. What similarities did you see from last season's Boom Shakalaka team that they carried over to this season?
Well, like you said, a lot of similar faces, and they just kind of play. They get out and run on the fast break. They can hit their threes between Martin, Kamara, and Belleville. They're all good shooters, and then Ronsley's down in the paint, just a menacing force on both ends.
It seemed like Boom just really utilized their size advantage over the Wild Hogs tonight. And the Wild Hogs might have been missing Mike Bandieri, who looked really good last week.
He did.
But I don't think he would have made a 20-something point difference. I think Boom Shakalaka is just a better overall team.
They played very harassing defense, double zero specifically. I can't remember.
Lucas Martin.
Yep. He had 4 steals. He was harassing their point guard all night and just getting in their heads, and that was a big factor.
For sure, and he did that a lot last year, as well as hitting some clutch threes we saw in the playoffs and in the All-Star game. Yeah, Lucas Martin's a name you'll get to know as we move on here. So the other game at 9:30, you had Boom Shakalaka winning here, and the Green Squad took care of business. Again, a new team, but Vic Kashu Jr. and Cody Crawford were doing their usual talking on Court 3 today. So the Green Squad takes care of the Werewolves. May sound familiar. Werewolves also one of those teams. Green Squad, that was also by, I think, 20-ish, and they're going to be a team to keep an eye out for. We know, talking about harassing defense, right? Vic over there brings that to that team. He's spearheading that defense and Cody's shooting and attacking style. But you were at that game. These guys were over here watching Boom. So what did you see from the Green Squad, and was it what you expected, knowing who they had on their team?
I mean, I expected it from Cody Crawford and Vic.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't know the other players, so I don't think it'll be the same as the Alliance because they don't have that same size that they had with the Alliance, and obviously they don't have Max Ventroni, who won MVP last year. So it's definitely a different team, but they're still a very good team. Obviously took care of the Werewolves and kind of shut down what they're usually doing. Forte had a good night. I believe he had over 20 points, but Heston at times kind of struggled, and a lot of turnovers were forced by the Green Squad.
And we know, you guys will get to know when you see them next week, the Werewolves rely heavily on Gino Forti and Brian Heston. And Gino was hitting. Brian Heston, like you mentioned, struggled a little bit. And when that's happening, they were doing 4 in, 4 out. Don't know if they'll change. They did that a little bit last year. But I know the Werewolves rely on those two to set everyone else up, to do a lot of the scoring. So when one of them is off, it's hard for them to match other teams. We'll see. They bring back a lot of the same guys, so at least they'll know, what they need to do. They're familiar with the league and the style of play, but I think still for that team, it's Heston and Forti setting everyone up, not just scoring, but really facilitating the offense for them. and that's going to be a key again to watch this season. The last game at 10:30, Halfway Crooks and Prestige Worldwide. So one returning team, and we had a new face, Justin, and he played well today. But Prestige Worldwide, a whole new team. There was some people here watching the game who recognized some of the players on Prestige. I had a little scouting report before that they're going to be quick, and it felt like they didn't miss. This was reminiscent of Halfway Crooks and Boom Shakalaka, the first game last season, where you just walk in and teams that we don't even know do not miss against the Halfway Crooks, and I think you guys can start here. That was very similar tonight. I was, of course, in the game, so I had a different perspective, but what did you see from Prestige Worldwide? It felt to me like they couldn't miss. What say you?
Yeah. They were knocking the whole night. Great ball movement.
Definitely good ball movement, and they had a lot of good quick guards who were able to attack the basket and had some high-flying dunks, too. Anything from...
I thought a big difference maker in that game was they were able to hit a lot of their threes, whereas you guys were a little dry from long range tonight. But overall, I think towards the end, you guys a little came back, but they still had the energy in them to kind of shut the door, especially Brian, number 5. Can't remember the last name. I think it was Yars, but 33 points. A lot of it at the end, he just turned it up when they needed it, and I think that was a difference maker.
Yeah, and I'll let you jump in quick, but I think they had, we had 5 guys, which was always a story last season. How deep is the bench? And Prestige Worldwide had the bench, and you could tell in the fourth quarter. We made a little run, and then they had the legs to finish us off.
Yeah, and also number 15, I'm not sure what his name was, but whenever you put the ball down low, he seemed to get a tip on it, or just
big guy,
his presence down there just was enough to alter the shot. And they won the rebounding battle, too, so I think that was a big help for them.
Sounds like the Boom Shakalaka from last season, right? Rebounding and not missing are usually 2 things that will help teams get wins in this league. All right, so putting you on the spot, my favorite thing to do. So for your first night, you guys, and you can chime in as well. Greg,
I'm ready.
Been here, done it. So, okay, we'll start with you. One word describing the night or a phrase. You can hyphenate a couple words, but what's the one thing that stands out about tonight?
I'm going to go with exciting. I mean, a lot of the games, a lot of them weren't close, but I felt like I was on the edge of my seat waiting for the next highlight every time. It's a really fun league with the 8.5-foot rim. You saw a lot of people saying they had to get used to their jump shot. So new, exciting, anything that goes along with those words, yeah.
Awesome. Got anything for me?
I would say unexpected. It's not what I initially thought it was going to be, but it's a lot more fun than I thought of.
Good. Yeah. Fun, exciting. I love it. You got. I mean, you've been around the rodeo once or twice, but what about this season maybe? What's one word about some of the teams you saw tonight?
I think that there's not a definite favorite, I should say, or like there's a lot more competition this year. I feel like there's a few of the new teams that are going to come in and really compete along with the returning teams, so it's going to set up for towards the end of the season, and like some of these matchups are going to be really good. When last year was like we kind of knew Alliance was going to take they were going to run ship and they were obviously going to get to the finals, but I think for this year, it's definitely up for grabs for now after the first year.
Sure. And every team will make the playoffs, so we have an 8-game regular season. Week 1 is over, and then everybody makes the playoffs like I mentioned, so the 1 will play the 8. We have a little Sweet 16 action going on. 1 plays the 8, 2, 7, and onward. So everybody will make the playoffs, and then everyone has to win and advance. It's single elimination in those playoffs, and those will be around March starting. So those matchups, like you mentioned, will be key. Who finishes where, the tiebreakers. Everyone will play everyone, so that's a good thing. We'll get at least everyone will get familiar with all the teams. So you can see highlights from tonight's games, as that about puts a wrap on the postgame show. So we have our Snapchat from last season, Legacy_RI. That's going to be our main Snapchat and the Snapchat for Court 1. And then any games on Court 3 this season, you can find on Legacy_RI2. So we have our secondary account because Snapchat can't have multiple people on the same account. So we have 2 going, so follow both of those. Legacy_leagues on the Twitter and Instagram, and those interviews that some of the winning teams got to do tonight. Facebook.com/legacyleagues. Those will be up. The postgame show will be up on Facebook, new this season, and YouTube. So then that puts a wrap on this. So we have articles, stats, interviews, postgame show, which you're watching right now. And then we'll have top plays and power rankings every week coming later in the week as well. So stay tuned for those. And good words. Good words. I put you on the spot. I love it. Good job.
Greg had a really long one.
I know. Yeah. Long word, right? Yeah. Long one word. We can hyphenate things. We'll hyphenate around here. So for the guys, I'm Joey. Thanks for watching the Week 1 postgame show. And we'll see you next Wednesday here at the Johnston Rec Center for Week 2.